now.
Hi, this is Buzz Burhans. I'm here with Dr. Dave Weber, and we want to talk a little bit about the other change in the update of CNCPS from version 6.5 to 6.55. Basically, this other change is a change to how it handles tissue amino acids. I have put up the same diet that we used in part 1 of this series of tutorials on the update to version 6.55. So this is the same diet we were looking at before. I have set it so that I am, by default, I am into 6.55 when I open it. You can see that down in the left-hand corner as we did before, because really what I want you to see is what 6.55 is doing with the amino acids in the diet. So let's look at our animal inputs. Again, it's the same diet. The current body condition score is 3.1. The target body condition score is 3.1. There is a days to reach target body condition, but since they're not changing, that's not really a factor here. If we come out to the diet itself, and then we look at our methionine, we have 83.2 grams of methionine available and 216.2 grams of lysine available. The other place we can see that is down here on the amino acid tab. What I would like you to notice here is that here's our supply, the total supply of 83.2 and 216 that we saw up on the NCPS tab. It's just reflected there. And we have a requirement here of 67.8 grams of metabolizable methionine and 192.4 of metabolizable lysine. I would like you also to notice that there is nothing being contributed by tissue here, and that makes sense. There's no tissue change occurring. This cow is at condition score 3.1. She's projected to stay at 3.1, so we shouldn't be having any effect on the amino acid supply. But if I were to go in here and say this cow will lose a condition or some condition score, so let's imagine that she's going to end up at 2.5, and that's going to happen in the next 30 days because she's fresh, for instance. I'm not going to change all the rest because it won't make that much difference. Now let's go back out and look at our results, and here you see that the methionine supply is now up to 88.5, and the lysine supply is 234.8. So that's a pretty significant increase in the methionine and lysine amount there. It's interesting that if I go down here to this metabolizable protein amino acid supply, down here, here's the diet evaluation, skip over here to amino acids. Look at this column here. So the highlighted cell there is the lysine supply that is available from tissue. Now think about what's going on. This cow was losing body condition. So that means she's going to be mobilizing metabolizable protein. She's mobilizing body protein, and in that protein there is lysine, and the expectation is that there will be 18.6 grams of lysine available for other functions. Similarly, the methionine expected to be mobilized in that body condition loss when it happens over 30 days is 5.3 grams. So it's these additions to the amino acid supply that caused our increase in methionine and lysine supply that we see up here. Remember that this was, I mean, they're not huge. Before we had, I believe it was 83.2 grams of methionine, and I think we were at 216 of lysine, and we see that there's more lysine being mobilized than methionine, so that all makes sense. If you look here for a minute at our metabolizable amino acid requirement, it's 67.8 grams of methionine and 192.4 of lysine. So the requirement hasn't changed. That's what we had for a requirement before. I can go back, and if I put this cow back to a stable body condition with no change that we were at before. We'll see that these amino acid requirements aren't changing at all, but because she's stable now, I'm not getting any contribution to the supply from tissue. But this will work the other way. If I were to go in and change this cow from 3.1 now and say that she is going to be gaining a condition score, so let's make her finish up at 3.75, and let's say that she's going to do that 90 days from now. I'm just throwing some numbers in there. If we go back and look at our requirement over here, we see that the requirement has changed. Now the methionine requirement was 67.8. It's now up to 69.2. And the lysine requirement was 192.4. It's now up to 197.7. So that makes sense. When you have a body condition change, most of the condition change is in the adipose tissue, in fat. And some of it is in protein, but not very much. So we see a modest change in the those two important amino acids there when she's expected to gain condition. And of course, if she's gaining condition, she won't be mobilizing any tissue, so we don't expect to see any contribution here on the supply side from there. So that's the other change that's going to affect the amino supply and balance, and you can play with that, but basically that's how that's going to work. I frequently am monitoring that when I do my diets up here at the methionine and lysine, and it gives you the relative balance and the amounts up here. So normally this is where I'm doing my my manipulations up there. And that's pretty much it for the changes in 6.55. This one is a little bit more modest. It will make a difference for those of you that are doing amino acid balancing. The other one, the one that we looked at before, with the change in the forage passage rate, the application of this NOR4 passage equation, which is only being applied to the forage, everything else is staying the same. That's the bigger one. That's going to change the digestibility of forage. It's going to change the nutrient supply to the animal, and it's going to require us to pay more attention. I think the bottom line is this version of the model is improving the accuracy of the model, but it's also going to require us to pay closer attention to the cows and how we describe them. So with that, that will close our description in these first two videos of what the changes are from 6.5 to 6.55. What I would like to do next is do a third and final video for this introduction to the changes, and that's some suggestions about things that you have to pay attention to when you formulate in 6.55. Fortunately, the NDS programmers, as always, have given us plenty of options. In this case, we have the option to continue to look at diets in 6.5 so that we retain our comfort zone, so to speak. Many of us get a little bit uncomfortable. That change, if you recall, was quite significant in the ME allowable milk. But we can switch back and forth as we showed before. I think ultimately we're all going to be better off. Our suggestions and predictions are going to be more accurate with 6.55. It will take a little bit more attention to how we formulate, and we'll look at that in the next video. I think, Dave, do you have any other thoughts on this amino acid piece?
No, I think that's complete, and we'll wrap it up with that, and stay tuned for part 3.
Sounds good.